Hi everybody, nice to be here. Nice to see such a great community building up around Gatsby. It's really nice to be a part of that. So I just wanted to tell you a bit about Zopa and how we're using the JAMStack and some of the pain points that we've maybe experienced, not with Gatsby itself, but maybe with historic things and architecture, in the hopes it can also help you to see that Gatsby is a great enterprise solution, as well as a great solution for marketing sites. So, first of all, who are Zopa? Oh, I need to do that. Yeah, that's it. So we started off more than 10 years ago. We built a peer-to-peer lending platform connecting people who wanted to borrow money with people who wanted to lend to people. And that's grown and grown and grown to the point that now we've built a bank. And we're based in London. We've got an office in Barcelona. And there's some really great stuff that we're working on at the moment with a range of different technologies. It's an awesome team. I've really enjoyed my time there. And I was going to say that we're hiring, but we just filled all our front-end developer positions. So keep an eye out, though. So we've recently, and in the last 18 months, just rebuilt our main website, www.zopa.com, in Gatsby. And it's brought us a great number of results from doing that. Probably like you, right? You've seen metrics similar to this. Reduced load times, which lead to more engagement, which lead to improved conversions, better SEO, and it's a constant positive feedback loop, right? You've seen that yourselves, I'm sure. So the problems that we've had, the issues that we've resolved and are resolving, have been worth solving because of this positive feedback loop. So we've been moving away from this kind of stack, and maybe you've done this as well, this kind of thing, right? You've got this monolithic application. In our case, it was a Ruby Sinatra app, which did loads of things, right? This thing had been around for a while, so as well as the presentation layer, it was doing our redirects, it was setting cookies, it was fetching data, and it did some other things. I'm not sure what it did yet, because the people who built it originally have moved on to other projects, have moved on to other jobs. So we're moving from that now to this, where we've got our presentation layer, Gatsby, and then all of these other microservices or separate different things that do things like the redirect, set cookies, that fetch data. And this question mark at the bottom goes away, and I love that. There's no more mystery meat stuff. You don't know what's going on with your app, you do. And in fact, it's also very easy to extend it. You can take that unknown away. And if a new requirement comes along, of course, you just build that and then call the data in your Gatsby site. So that's been a great journey for us to go on. But two of the challenges that I wanted to talk about are these: trailing slashes and our release split, because we've got a commitment to first produce something that then is tested in a different URL, testing URL, UAT, we call it, to our release environment, our production environment, right? And that caused some concern. So first of all, I don't know if you've ever had this problem, right? There was a few chuckles when I said that. Trailing slashes, bit of an issue. We're hosting on S3, and the problem is this, is that these two URLs are actually different to search engines. They're different URLs entirely. And here's us. We built this new app, entirely new design, new content. So we didn't want to risk also changing the URL from zopa.com/invest no slash to zopa.com invest with a slash at the end. Okay, so that could cause us a lot of problems because we didn't want to risk this uncanny valley where all of a sudden Google's not trusting your URL, or search engines don't trust you as much. So the kind of pain points that we went through to get to where we got to eventually was this. Of course, we use Gatsby plugin trailing slashes because it's great. It does the job cosmetically. But of course, it doesn't know anything about your environment, where you're hosting this, and how can it? Because Gatsby can be hosted in almost anywhere. But what we found was when we pushed it up to S3, the status code didn't change. So all of our URLs were getting redirected on a 301, a temporary redirect. So that was even worse than serving a different URL to us and not really helpful. And also, we could go into the AWS interface and add these redirects individually, but that's not really sustainable. Every time you do a new URL, add a new thing, it's going to get forgotten, right, at some point. And our philosophy is to keep our infrastructure as code so that it can be replicated, we could destroy the bucket and recreate it. Of course, we could have put Nginx on the front end as a service, but that would rule out using a CDN. It would really slow the site down, so we didn't want to do that either. Now, there was another solution proposed, which was you could have duplicate objects, or you can have a file or an object in your S3 bucket with the title, say, invest, and then a folder called invest, which is where the redirect would send you to. You ever tried to have two items the same in a Linux operating system? It doesn't work. You can't do it. So that wasn't sustainable either. What we ended up doing was this, a Lambda Reg function, which interprets the request, changes the status code, and serves the right URL. And that was a great solution. There was absolutely no time lag whatsoever. It was perfect for what we needed. So my very clever colleague who wrote that is at some point going to write a blog about it. So if you're interested in that code, please let me know, and I'll bug him a bit more. And now the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is our split between our testing and UAT environments and our production environment. Now, you've probably got something like this yourself, right? You plan your piece of functionality, you build it, then you test it, you QA it, then it goes into UAT or user acceptance testing, and then once that's okayed, then it gets pushed to production. But the issue with that we had was that we're doing these two different things. At both of those points, we're running Gatsby Build, and that builds the site for us, fetches the data, and serves the URLs that we want to get data on the front end to. But of course, I needed these URLs to be different. We needed to split those environments completely. So the UAT build gets data from a UAT endpoint, and the prod one gets one from the prod. So how did we do that? Well, we could have used environment variables. That's how probably you do it. But unfortunately, our pipeline was such that those variables were only available after the Gatsby build process is run. And the reason being that our infrastructure is built in around Node apps. So they're expecting you to have a Node application which would then pick up those variables once it's running. Okay, but of course we don't have a running Node app here to do that. So this became an issue for us. In fact, yeah, so we couldn't just do that, unfortunately. And it's also running in a different Docker container, so it came in too late. Hang on, that's not the right one. Oh, yes, it is. So we did this instead. So when we built it, the variables became available. Then we had a script that would then replace those variables with the right URLs, and then we could fetch data from the right endpoint, and that works very well for us. And then we push the data up to our code repository and then release it to where we want. But we looked at another solution for this. I don't know if this is helpful to anybody, but we've also got another team that are trying this approach. So running it from Jenkins, our CI pipeline, into a Kubernetes container, which then has the node server which runs those two processes, either build on UAT or production, and then pushes up to release that code. So there's another option we're thinking about. I still don't think it's the best solution. I think that in the end of the day, we need to decouple these two processes, which is what Netlify does for you, right? The release process is separate from the rebuild and deploy process. So we're still thinking about that and how we do it. I guess there's always FTP, right? No, we're not going back there. So what's the future for Zopa? Well, there's a lot of enthusiasm in our community for using Gatsby on more projects. We're going to be building out more common microservices so that we can fetch our data and build more exciting things with Gatsby. It's definitely been a great journey that we've been on, and we're looking forward to working more with it. So thank you for listening to me waffle. Yeah, and as I said, we're sometimes hiring, well, often.